Welcome to today's explainer. So today we're taking a super fast-paced 35-second cinematic classroom reel from an institute called the Grammar Garage, and we're just going to slow it way down. We're going to completely deconstruct it to extract their core methodology for mastering the IELTS speaking test. If you're the kind of person who loves structured learning and really pulling high-value strategies out of rapid-fire content, well, you are in exactly the right place. Let's get right into it. Scared of IELTS speaking? That text literally flashes on screen in the very first scene of our source reel, and it drops us right into the high-stakes reality of test prep. I mean, do you relate to that nervous student, staring down an upcoming speaking test, feeling the pressure mount, just terrified that your mind is going to go completely blank the second the examiner looks at you? It's such a universal feeling, right? And the creators of this reel, they know exactly how to hook their target audience by highlighting that very specific fear right out of the gate. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the IELTS panic problem. Because, before we can really understand the solution, we have to look at the massive psychological hurdle that trips up so many test takers. The tutor's immediate, totally direct warning to the student is simply this: stop memorizing answers. And he says it with absolute urgency. It's actually a fascinating insight. The tutor is pinpointing exactly why that testing panic happens in the first place. Relying on rote memorization, it's basically setting a trap for yourself. It's like a giant house of cards. The absolute second a single word drops out of your memory under pressure, the entire structure collapses. And suddenly, you're just staring at the examiner in absolute terrifying silence. We've all been there, right? Frantically searching our brain for a single vocabulary word while the clock is just loudly ticking away in the background. Let's look at the exact example the tutor writes up on the whiteboard in scene 2. The prompt is, describe a foreign country you want to visit. Now, on the surface, that looks simple enough, right? But this is precisely the type of open-ended question that absolutely triggers student anxiety. Because think about it. If you haven't memorized a perfectly written essay about a foreign country beforehand, and suddenly you have to generate spontaneous thoughts while being evaluated, that pressure is immense. It's entirely paralyzing.
So the crucial point is that most students panic simply because they lack original ideas. It turns into this constant battle, memorizing answers versus panicking from a lack of ideas. If you rely purely on your memory and the prompt asks for something original, well, your memory is going to fail. And when that memory fails, but original ideas are suddenly being demanded by the examiner, panic is literally the inevitable result. It's a totally vicious cycle, and it's exactly what this tutor is trying to break right from the start.
Section 2, the Grammar Garage solution. So how do we actually move away from all that memorization and panic? Let's break down the exact methodology they present.
This right here is the absolute core of their pitch. The tutor outlines a really specific 3-pillar methodology designed to replace all that fear with a reliable, structured system. First up, smart speaking structure. This gives you a mental scaffolding so you aren't just, rambling into the void. Second, natural vocabulary. This means moving away from those robotic, memorized textbook phrases so you actually sound like a real person having a normal conversation. And third, real IELTS strategies. These are practical techniques specifically tailored for this test format. It's a complete pivot from rote learning to actual dynamic skill building.
If we map out the visual journey of the reel itself, we see a really clear transformation. Just look at the before state. The student is isolated, they're nervous, they're panicking. The visual cue is literally just a scared individual, and the root cause? Memorization and a total lack of ideas. But then contrast that with the after state. The video editing suddenly becomes fast-paced, the visual cues shift to dynamic, smiling pairs of students practicing together, and the cause of this massive shift? It's applying that structure in an active classroom setting. Honestly, it's a brilliant visual representation of their entire teaching philosophy. Section 3, Path to Your Dream Score. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it's one thing for a tutor to just list out theories, but it's entirely another to see that theoretical solution actively applied. Let's look at the proof. Check out this exact quote from a student practicing in scene 4. They say, "I would love to visit Japan because of its culture and discipline." This brilliantly illustrates the strategy in action. It directly answers that whiteboard prompt from earlier, it uses totally natural phrasing, and it provides a clear, structured reason: culture and discipline. It's not some agonizingly long, memorized paragraph. It's a genuinely generated idea. And the tutor? He immediately reinforces this with a super enthusiastic, "Excellent!" Let's move to and see how this builds as the reel flashes through these fast cuts of classroom learning, speaking practice, and mock interviews. It really reveals a clear 3-step roadmap. Step 1, Practice daily. You take that smart structure and you just use it over and over again. Step 2, build confidence. That psychological shift naturally follows the daily practice. And finally, step 3, target your dream band score. It's a highly logical progression, showing us that consistent application of their method leads directly to the test result you actually want.
Now, while this specific hook focused heavily on IELTS to really grab the viewer's attention, the framework itself is completely adaptable. Whether you're targeting IELTS, PTE, or literally just general spoken English, the core disciplines of structure, natural vocabulary, and active practice, they apply across the board. The goal here is so much broader than passing a single test. It's about fundamentally changing how you communicate when you're put under pressure.
Ultimately, the big takeaway here goes way beyond a single exam. We've seen the sheer panic that rote memorization causes, and we've walked through the structured practice designed to cure it. So I'm going to leave you with this final question straight from their approach. Are you ready to stop memorizing and start speaking? Think about how you approach your own learning endeavors, because if you want to conquer that anxiety, the path forward definitely isn't memorizing more words. It's building a structure you can truly, fundamentally trust. Keep that in mind for whatever you decide to study next. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.